Good evening and welcome to Sporlitiks, where sports and politics mix and mingle. I'm Stacey Johnson. Joining me tonight is Aguna. He's back. The Nigerian moderate Republican. Keith, the constitutional conservative. Stephen, the independent thinker. And my cousin Todd. We have a packed show for you. President Biden signed so the U.S. would not default. NBA Finals tonight, the Heat versus the Nuggets in game 3 of a tied series, 1-1. 75 million people right now are under alerts as wildfires, the smoke from wildfires, choke multiple U.S. cities, causing flight delays and postponing professional sporting events. The New York Times, Eric Lipton reports, through ties to the Saudis, a golf deal promises benefits to Trump. The new alliance between the PGA Tour and Live Golf is the latest example of how the former president's relationship with Saudi Arabia has yielded gains and criticism. For both, as a grand jury has heard testimony from former President Trump associates this week regarding his new indictment. 2 killed and 5 others injured in another shooting outside a high school graduation in Richmond, Virginia, and a woman in Florida is arrested for the killing of a young mother of 4. Right now, today, the House of Representatives, are paralyzed by a conservative revolt. That and more, if we can fit it in. First up, Aguna, what's going on with the NBA Finals?
Well, I am kind of shocked that it's tied 1-1, considering many people thought that the Nuggets with Djokovic would sweep the Heat. But Jimmy Butler and even Gabe, I forgot the guard's name, they're both, they're lights out. He had 23 points. Jimmy Butler had about 21 points. So they pulled off game 2, which, truth be told, if Miami handles business at home now, they flip the series. Now it's advantage Miami, and they're going to play tonight in Miami. So we'll see. I think it's tonight in Miami. I think it's
it's
a
tonight.
2-0. Yeah, it's because I think they played 3 in a row in Miami. I think the finals are a little bit different because I think they have.
Are you saying, in other words, if the Sixers aren't playing, you are not interested?
Not at all, but I guess somebody has to win the finals. So I still think that the Nuggets are going to win, but I think the Heat is making it interesting by stealing that game too. But we'll see tonight. If the Nuggets can win tonight, it flips back to Denver. So you just got to see what happens. And it's just amazing that an 8th seed anyway would be in the finals like this anyway. So we'll see what happens. If Jimmy Butler would have just stayed with the Sixers, we probably would have been in the finals. They didn't want to pay him. They went with Ben Simmons over Butler. They wanted to, because Butler was one talking trash about Ben Simmons in the locker room, like, this dude is soft. And so they got rid of Butler. And of course, look where we are. Bridesmaid, never a bride. Still no title. And the process is gone. So.
All right. Let's move on to, who I forgot to mention? Your son's favorite sport. Well, no, I don't know. Is it your son's favorite sport? On the bottom of the screen, is that your son's favorite sport?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. I thought so. What I forgot to mention was Lionel Messi. Where's he going? They say he's going to Inter Miami. So Argentine superstar Lionel Messi said today he's going to join the Major League Soccer club of Inter Miami. He said, I made the decision that I am going to Miami. I still haven't closed it 100%. I'm missing some things, but we decided to continue my journey there. The 7-time World Player of the Year said in an interview posted by Spanish outlets Sport and Mundo Deportivo. Any comments on that? Is your son excited about that, or?
Yeah, his club is definitely excited. They're talking about doing a field trip of all places down to Miami to watch him play. I think,
A
you know,
field trip? How old are they?
yes, 9. So that's why. Well, the bottom line of it is we don't have to go to Miami to see him play. They're going to play DC United. They're going to play the Union, so we can just stay local. And but those games will probably be sold out that he's here. This is a huge win for MLS. Again, in the grand scheme of European club soccer, MLS is still kind of like Pop Warner if you compare to some of the clubs over in England and in Europe. But it's good to have a big name in the league, so that it will bring more attention and more star power. So the more the merrier. And you're going to see a lot of that with MLS just trying to get more people, involved and interested in the sport. So good win for U.S. soccer, men's soccer, and we good to see. He's the best soccer player in the world, arguably, because there's Neymar and there's some others that are up there. But yeah, it'll be really good to see him play live. You don't get to see soccer icons very often, especially in the U.S. So it'll be good to see, and see whether or not he can help Miami compete, because they're not a very great club, but
Okay.
with his caliber of play, you never know. That's just like getting LeBron James. So we'll see how that works out.
All right. So let's go on to the world of live golf, PGA and live golf. So basically, the PGA has merged with live golf. And according to this New York Times article, it's by Alan Blinder, Kevin Draper, and Gilbert Gates originally. This is the earlier article, not the one I was referring to in the intro. The world of live golf includes all these people, right? So it starts with the Public Investment Fund, if you look at that, from Saudi Arabia, who is run by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He was able to get lawyers from those two on the right-hand side or your left, 2 law firms, as well as attorneys and other companies, consultants on the right or your left. He then has everything run by Yasser Al-Rumayyan, who oversees Aramco. I don't know if you all know who Aramco is, but Aramco is like the biggest oil company in Saudi Arabia. But this major player, Yasser, is a big golf aficionado. So he also has connections to Newcastle United and Golf Saudi. Then you see Live Golf, headed up by Greg Norman, with consultants Benjamin Quayle, Ari Fleischer, Gibson, Dunn and Crutcher, and Donald Trump, his son and son-in-law. And then Performance 54. And then you have these 3 famous golfers, Cameron Smith, Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson, and 45 others, who are basically representing the golf world for Live Golf by playing in these big tournaments. So, Aguna, let's talk about the influx of how Donald Trump became president. His first formal trip to a foreign nation was in Saudi Arabia, to Saudi Arabia. He has a connection with Saudi Arabia because he's a golf aficionado. And now he is saying, he's still backing them, and they're still having major golf tournaments at his golf resorts, despite the atrocities that Saudi Arabia has committed and human rights atrocities. So is there a conflict of interest there?
Well, depends on who you ask and who want to see their and believe their lying eyes. I mean, if this was if this was
Now, wait,
anybody else but
lying eyes.
Donald
What does that
Trump,
mean?
well, yeah, there. I mean, it's definitely interest. I don't know if it's a conflict because again, we're in a capitalist society. You know, you can invest in what you want. You can do kind of what you want as long as it's about money, and this is about money. And so that being said, you know, there was a lot of pushback on Phil Mickelson when he first joined Live Golf, and there was a lot of controversy based on all the stance on Saudi Arabia, human rights, and all that stuff. But I mean, it's really, again, I think a lot of that is overblown in the sense of this Live Golf. I mean, what other countries, besides Live Golf, have the same posture invested from the Saudis? I mean, this is just live and in front. If you don't like Donald Trump, you're going to look at this like, oh, he kind of greased the skids in order to make this deal happen. But even if you peel back the onion a little bit and look what Live Golf is doing, some of the innovation, people have compared it to being like the Tesla of the golfing world with some of how the contracts are structured, how the different innovation and technology.
They're just paying them a lot of money.
So it's kind of riding a wave of innovation as well as looking at, because it's one aspect to look at it. Yes, it's backed by the Saudis, boo-hoo. But then there's also the entrepreneurial investment innovation aspect of it, which is what these companies do. When companies take new and more and are trying to get into the market and taking on the PGA, this is kind of what happens. You have these big influx of money, investment, great idea. Now all of a sudden PGA sees they saw it as kind of a threat, so now they want to merge. That's how business happens. And so, yeah, we can get into the aspect of the human rights associated with the Saudi prince and all that. But there's this, if we follow the money here, there's other things. You probably will be mad about a lot of stuff outside of just golf. This is just upfront. And then, of course, with the Trump aspect of it, it gets a little controversial. So but it's the American way.
Let me share my screen.
Yeah, this is like entrepreneur. This is how people with money make more money.
Okay, so if you can read this, it says, I don't know if you can read it. Can you see the screen?
I mean, you think about the purses alone in this. I mean, everybody's making money over there. It's like guaranteed contracts. There's all kind of things. Yeah, we're not seeing anything, but yeah.
No, but while she's doing that, Tiger Woods was against it, strangely enough, and they were offering him $800 million, and he refused.
Whoa.
Now, it's a tricky thing. Even if Trump wasn't involved, to allow the Saudis to own some of America is kind of scary.
Well, if we look at this article, if you can read it right there, it says the surprising deal on Tuesday, which they were talking about yesterday, ending a civil war in the world of professional golf, stands to produce benefits for former President Donald J. Trump's family business by increasing the prospect of major tournaments continuing to be played at Trump-owned courses in the United States and perhaps abroad. The outcome is the latest example of how the close relationship between Mr. Trump, the frontrunner for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination, and Saudi Arabia, whose sovereign wealth fund is the force behind the upheaval in the golf world, has proved beneficial to both sides, even as it has prompted intense ethical scrutiny and political criticism. So let me ask Keith, talk about having your hands in a cookie jar. I would think President Trump.
Keith doesn't care about that. Keith,
in the cookie jar.
You're wasting your time asking Keith about that. Keith loves his hands in the cookie jar and on him. So it doesn't matter to Keith, right, Keith? It doesn't matter about the cookie jar.
I like Todd.
Um,
Todd knows me very well. Very good, Todd.
So my point is, here is a president who may have a conflict of interest because the Saudis, the money they're putting into the Live Golf through their billions of dollar funds are directly going to the former president because they're playing at his properties. So there's an ethical concern here.
Oh,
Don't you
God.
think, Keith?
Here we go.
Here we go.
It's, look, with all the stuff that Biden and his son are doing.
You knew it was coming. You knew it was coming.
No, okay, but anyway, look, if it's on his property, then I'm not going to say anything bad about it. I mean, it's his property, for crying out loud.
Right. After
So
all,
his land. It's his golf course. It's let him do what he wants.
yeah. If he wants to have slaves on his land, let him.
I mean, they let China buy up all the farmland. So I mean, what the heck? So we're letting China.
What about there being top secret and confidential records that the former president may still have at his Mar-a-Lago estate, that if the Saudis are there, they would have access to top secret United States military information?
Well, at least his stuff was locked away. Joe Biden's stuff was all over the floor, everywhere. Joe Biden's
all over
everywhere.
Chinatown, wasn't it? Right? It's all over Chinatown, right, Keith?
Yeah, it was everywhere. Yeah, but Trump has his stored away. He has Secret Service there, security. I mean, come on, look.
What does Secret Service have to do with documentation?
Well, they protect. They guard him. They
protect
have guards.
The president. They don't protect documents.
Okay, well, I'm sure he has security and he has it locked away somewhere in a safe.
They
talk about
was that area that they had it? Was it certified to
the FBI
contain
the FBI already
documents?
checked?
Was it a skiff?
The FBI already secured. They already checked years ago, and it turned out that everything was fine.
I'm making stuff up. Look, he shouldn't have had the documents. No. Biden shouldn't have had the documents. Just say he was wrong for having the documents. Stop trying to make up excuses.
He wasn't.
He wasn't wrong for having documents. You should be offended as an American because these documents don't belong to him. They belong to we, the people. You, as a conservative, should be offended.
First of all, are you aware of that? Oh, you're not aware of that, are you? Are you aware that the FBI already checked all of his documents and said basically
what does the FBI have to do with documents? The FBI doesn't have that purview. The purview is the National Archives, right? So they're the ones that keep presidential records. You're saying the FBI looked at them. I mean, they have nothing to do with, I mean, they're investigating the crime, but the documents belong to the National Archives. And so if the National Archives are saying he shouldn't have had it, then why do you have a problem with that? I mean, why are you trying to excuses?
The excuse, they already dismissed it years ago, and then they came back.
What?
They dismissed the fact that he had those documents, and they said as long as it's safe.
You mean the letter that they wrote to them asking for the documents back dismissed the fact that he had documents?
Yeah.
All dismissed. This is what you call pulling things out your behind, audience. When you pull things out your behind, this is what it looks like. When you don't know what you're talking about and you just want to make things up on the fly, this is what it looks like. Continue, Keith.
Well, let me share this. Look at the screen. This was reported on 2 hours ago on June 7th, 5:27 p.m., written by Dan Mangan. It says Trump on CNBC.com. Trump says, I'm sorry, not his aide. Former President Trump says, no one has told me I'm being indicted. As the aides testified to the Florida grand jury, and they're testifying about the former president's handling of classified documents after leaving the White House. And that's exactly what we're talking about.
Look,
if they're saying he's mishandling these documents in his golf course or at his home, not far from his Miami golf course, who's to say that they would not get into the wrong hands of the people from Live Golf? Cousin Todd?
Jesus.
Well, first of all, just to clear some of that Keith stuff up, um, nobody cleared him of anything. As a matter of fact, they recently have evidence of him saying, but first let me tell you what he told publicly. He said that he declassified these documents and he could do that just by looking at them or thinking about it. So they're declassified as far as he's concerned, even though there are steps to take in order to declassify anything. He doesn't have to do that. He could just think of it and it's done, or look at it and
Do you know?
it's done.
Yeah.
So
Do you know what steps there are?
Can
Do you
you-
know what steps you're talking
can you
about?
let me finish? I'll get right back to it. Let me just
Sure.
finish this.
Sure.
Right after he said that, he told somebody, and this was taped, I'd love to show you these documents, but see, they're classified. That's right after he told you that they were not classified. Do you see? It's something like when he said, oh, the coronavirus is a killer and it's killing children and it's killing. This is what he said. You remember this. Then he told you, oh, it's no different than the flu. It'll be gone by Easter. Come on. Remember? He flip flops. He says anything, literally anything, and you believe him. But sensible, rational, and intelligent people do not. So,
I think Keith can relate to him because Keith does the same thing.
right, he'll say literally anything. And so now Trump is going to be indicted for that because that's evidence against him that he knew those documents were classified documents and he did not take the proper channels in order to declassify them.
So, Keith, if you look at this screen up here, you can see it says an FBI raid on Trump's residence at his Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach, Florida, last August uncovered many classified documents. Do you think that some of these classified documents could get into the hands of the Saudi Arabians through President Trump's ties with the collaboration between Live Golf and the PGA Tour at his properties?
No, I don't. I mean, if it could, it would have already been. So it hasn't
But
happened.
how do you know it hasn't already been?
How do we know that it has?
How do you know that it has not?
Well, I don't. And I'm just
Right.
asking you now, how do you know that it has or
I
will
don't, but it's a possibility. I don't know that it has
So
not.
Keith, you realize even
be? That
the
Biden,
fact that if it's a possibility, stop. Don't say anything about Biden. Stop it.
why
If
not?
it's a possibility
I will
right
speak
now
about-
that it
You
wasn't
speak
in a
about-
secure location, there are foreign nationals on the property, right? It's not a certified SCIF where documents are housed. And it's not, so even if all of that was in the case, he didn't want to give them back. You got to realize the National Archives asked him several times to return these documents if he had them. And no, don't do the
And over a
whataboutism with
year.
Biden. Biden was
Why not?
never tried to hide the fact or deny
Why
the
not?
fact that
Biden
he
is
had it.
president
He
right
didn't
now.
realize that he had them. It's
Biden
it's not the
is
same.
president.
It's a false
He's the
equivalent.
standing
You can't
president.
say,
right?
hey,
You know?
Biden had non-classified documents, Trump didn't. No, Trump not only had them, but he tried to hide them. And then he didn't return them after they asked multiple times to return the documents. They knew what documents they wanted. They asked him for it. He said no. He fought them on it. Joe Biden did not fight anybody on any documents. Now, the big picture is, and this is my last point, if he's this reckless with classified documents, what do you think he's going to do with other issues, with the bigger issues that are happening with COVID? He is showing a pattern of behavior of being irresponsible and incompetent as a executive leader for the United States. So the fact that you're sitting here defending this action, you need to be bold, Keith. I'm challenging you to be bold and just say, look, yes, this is wrong. Let's move on from this guy. Because the more you defend him and the more you justify bad behavior, the less credibility you have on this show, Keith. And I don't want you to do that to yourself.
Let's let Keith respond. Keith, go ahead and respond.
I'll just say, bring it on. Bring it on. We'll see in, time will tell. The truth always comes out later. even though the media will pass it up and they'll bury it. Once the truth comes out, the media will bury it. You'll not hear anything about it, and you'll get on to the next subject. So I'll be glad to see that happen. But it'll be the next subject, the next thing that Trump has done that you just can't stand. But
there's so many of it. He's very entertaining. I do agree with you in that. But just like so you're in a football game, Keith,
let me
and
finish.
it's first and one. It's first and goal at the one, and you decided just to punt.
Let me finish.
Okay, go ahead, punt.
Trump.
You're gonna punt it.
We will see in due time. We will see if you are correct or if I am right. But guess what?
What is my position? Can you articulate my position? What is my position?
Is that he took these items and he won't return it. That's wrong. You're saying that it's wrong. You're saying it's some crime has been committed. I'm saying that the crime has not been committed because he was.
Well, he's not saying it. Actually, the federal government is saying it.
All right. Well, the government is wrong. This government, because he was the president of the United States at the time, and he had certain rules based on Article 2 of the Constitution that said the president has authority to do what he did. Okay, so let's see what happens, and then let's compare it with Joe.
I'm gonna. Okay,
Joe
so
Biden has papers.
Keep the executive branch in check, Keith.
Never talked about
a dictator.
Joe Biden. So let's just see. I'm not going to stop talking about Joe Biden because Joe Biden is the president of the United States right now.
No, because you need to defer. That's not the subject. You're trying to deflect. Joe Biden is your deflection when you don't know anything about the subject. So every time you bring up Joe Biden, we already know you don't have an argument.
I'm not trying to deflect. I have deflected.
I'll say, he said he's not trying. He did.
You have successfully deflected.
He said he successfully deflected. So I want to talk about.
Bring up the laptop.
And Keith, you can see. Do you see the screen?
Wait, before we move on, I just wanted to add. Now I understand that Keith is saying that Joe Biden took papers from the White House and he should not have, or he should have returned them. I understand that, and that's legitimate, but you cannot compare the two because Pence did the same thing. Pence forgot that he had them, you see? But nobody's saying Pence is a criminal. Pence, when he discovered it, he said, oh, listen, I have these and you can send the FBI to retrieve them. And it was fine. But the only one that fought and lied and said, oh, I gave everything back. I don't have any confidential papers at my house. That was Trump who did that over and over again. Why?
Let the record state. Let me state for the record. I am not saying. I want to say this clearly. I am not saying that Joe Biden or Trump are wrong for keeping whatever documents they declassified because of Article 2 of the Constitution.
They did not declassify them.
They have authority as president.
Okay, so they did not declassify them, number one. So
you don't know that.
Get that. We know that.
Where's your evidence?
Wow.
I just gave you my evidence. Donald Trump said, and it is on tape, I would love to show you these documents, but they're classified. That was after he told you that they were declassified because he did a mind trick and declassified them without going through the proper channels. But that's okay.
Keith,
sounds good to me.
The bottom line, Keith, the danger here, and which is very interesting. I love seeing you as a so-called constitutional conservative sit here and argue for the right to the executive branch and for, because again, if these guys start doing things by executive privilege or whatever, whether it's a Democrat or Republican in there, you're going to sit there and defend those actions as well. No, we have to make sure that the executive branch is kept in check. So they need to abide by the rules. We can't let them have the people's documents. We can't let them make these decisions willy-nilly. And because what's going to happen is they could do things to your detriment as well. And if a Democrat was in there and did the same thing, if Trump was a Democrat, I'm going to use one of your arguments. This whataboutism. I'm going to deflect. Hey, if Trump was a Democrat, you wouldn't be sitting here saying Article 2 of the Constitution.
Well,
you would not do that. You got mad when Obama
but I just
said privilege.
No, didn't I just say that when I said Joe Biden? I'm not holding him responsible for. I'm not saying he broke a law by declassifying whatever he had. All those papers that they found.
Okay. What if he
They
did
found
not
one
declassify them?
I'm not
Okay, what if
saying, right?
what if he did not declassify them? Then is that a crime? If he did not declassify them?
I don't know, be honest with you, because I don't know if that's true, if he did or didn't.
The
I
first,
Okay,
that's
let's
the
say
first thing that you said, honestly, all evening, Keith, is you don't
yeah.
know.
I don't
Okay,
know.
Just leave
I'm
it at
done.
that. Let's just
All
leave it
right.
at that. There you
We don't,
go. Good job.
yeah, we get all the information. I mean, we don't
Thank
have
you, and I'm done. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Aguna, the
Yes.
debt ceiling drama. Let me share my screen. There is a crisis right now in Congress, in the House of Representatives. Let me share my screen so you can see where this crisis is. The House floor is paralyzed. This is thehill.com. The floor of the House, can you see that, was paralyzed for a second day today, Wednesday, amid an uproar from conservatives blocking party line Republican measures amounting to the biggest blockade since the speaker's election 5 months ago, when he sat in there and they kept denying his election about 20 times. I'm exaggerating.
13.
Aguna, speak to us and tell us what's going on with the House.
Well,
And
there's
what's going on
a
with the
certain
speakers.
segment. There's a certain segment of the House caucus
Republicans.
that is the Republicans that are trying to block Congress doing its job, right? So compromise. You know, at the end of the day, this whole Republican-Democrat dynamic in Congress is supposed to be about compromise. Nobody's going to get 100% of what they want. That's not how government works, because you have a two-party system. But for some reason, there's a small contingent within certain parties, or right in this case, the Republican Party, that is saying, hey, the compromise deal that you struck isn't good enough. We don't cut enough spending in these specific areas that we know that the Democrats aren't going to agree with, right? By the way, we're doing this whole argument around the debt ceiling, which is paying money or using money that you've already paid. You're raising the debt limit because you've already spent this money. So now the bills are coming due, and you don't want to increase the debt ceiling in order to pay the bills. Yeah, yes, there is an argument around, okay, you can't just keep increasing this debt ceiling and not think about spending. But that's not the time when you don't do that at the time is to raise the ceiling. Only the Republicans have kind of weaponized it in this fashion. And the repercussions are severe for, things, entitlement programs, defense spending, and things like that this is money that's already been spent. So the fact that this aspect of the Republican parties are trying to use or leverage this brinksmanship in order to do things they should be doing when they're actually balancing the budget or having those budgetary conversations is ridiculous. At the end of the day, they're going to raise the debt ceiling. I don't know. They can do all this blockade all they want. They can try to play around with it as much as they want. The problem is even the spending cuts that they've agreed to, and Joe Biden already knows this, right? He knows that he can agree to whatever cuts that the Republicans are throwing out there, and then through executive action or through committee actions, not even implement any of that stuff. So it's because that's what happened back in 2011 with President Obama. They made these agreements to the Republicans. They tried to use the debt ceiling as kind of this brinksmanship type thing. They tried to play chicken with the world currency, which is the U.S. dollar, and it ended up not amounting to the spending cuts that they promised. It looked good because it looked like a deal has been struck. Oh, we're going to cut this spending. We're going to cut that. We're going to cut this. But at the end of the day, nothing really happened. So that's the fuel that's fueling this particular part of the Republican caucus. They knew back in 2011, nothing really came out of this, the spending cuts. So they don't want to be tricked again. And so they're digging in deep. Now, there's an aspect of this caucus that will never vote for any debt ceiling increase. They just won't do it. They rather, because they know that they won't be necessarily held accountable if things happen. And what can happen.
Thank you for being on. Thank you, Stacey. Thank you, Aguna, for telling the truth that showing, exposing the dishonesty of the Democrats. I appreciate that.
So Keith, let me ask
of course,
there's
selective hearing. Let me just say this, Stacey. You see what he just did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
He's saying the
Just
dishonesty
so-
of the Democrats. Again, that's the problem. The Democrats
You're
are only the
the
Democrats
one
are
who
being
said
dishonest. The Republicans
You're the
aren't
one
being
who said
dishonest.
it. You're the one who
I didn't
said
say
it.
that. I
You
didn't
said
say
they
they were being
falsely.
dishonest.
You
I just
said
said
they
that there was nothing going to
Okay,
happen.
so Keith, let me ask you
That's
this.
politics.
Looking at this article from thehill.com, it says in an effort to break the impasse, Speaker Kevin McCarthy, Republican from California, and his top deputies huddled in the speaker's office for long meetings throughout the day. A group of conservatives, including several of those who had orchestrated the blockade, also met with McCarthy. The discussions did not yield any breakthroughs, and leaders kept the House in recess for the bulk of the day before canceling floor votes for the rest of the week altogether. How are they doing the business of the people when they get nothing done today and then they say, oh, we're not even going to come in and the rest of the week and even try? It sounds like they're quiet quitting, right, Keith?
Nope. The Republicans that are holding out because they're tired of the spending. Well, but you know what? I don't think, I think a lot of this is showmanship, trying to show how conservative the Republicans are fiscally. And they're not as conservative as they claim to be because they've had years of doing this.
Oh,
And
good,
Keith.
that's why I
that's
commend.
truth.
And see, these guys won't give me credit for this, but that's why I commended Aguna for saying the fact that it's a deceptive move. The Democrats are misleading, have misled the Republicans in the Obama administration, and they're doing it again today to the point that they're not really going to cut spending. So the spending will not be cut. Both parties are definitely guilty of this. And this is showmanship. They're just trying to show everybody how they're trying to hold out. It's at the end of, like Aguna would say, at the end of the day, it's going to be, they're going to raise the debt
They're going
ceiling.
to raise the debt ceiling. And let's just be clear.
Yeah.
The Republicans raised the debt ceiling 4 times under Trump. Okay. This is something that they do. Now, just because the Democrats.
Finish that statement, higher than it's ever been raised in the history of America.
Right.
Got that,
and that's why, you know, by Keith honing in on the fact that, quote unquote, the Democrats are being deceptive. I mean, were they really, or were the Republicans using something that they shouldn't have been using to begin with to negotiate around spending? Negotiate around spending when you're putting the budget together. Don't negotiate around spending when the bills are due.
After you've already.
I mean, that is just fiscal responsibility. Yeah, you don't want to spend and have to raise. I mean, yes, if I have a credit card, right, and I max out my credit card.
Thank you for making it real.
I don't want. It's bad habit to keep on requesting that I get my credit card increased versus paying down, you know, my debt. But the biggest issue is if the bill is due and I need a credit line increase, or otherwise my credit score goes down and I can't get more credit, and I can still push it out and pay down the debt. That's the conversation you have to have. This is what business people do all the time. They use leverage money as a tool in order to buy themselves time. Yes, the U.S. government, in as good fiscal policy, we shouldn't necessarily do that. But the U.S. government isn't like we, the individual people. They do things that don't generate money, like provide a lot of services and things for people, build roads, bridges, infrastructure.
Thank you,
so it's not necessarily the same equivalent when it comes to spending and household budgets.
Thank you, Aguna. So let me ask Nas. Nas, if you look at, you can't see it, but I'll read it to you from thehill.com. It says the dynamics created an extraordinary predicament for the new speaker, whose victory lap following last week's crucial debt ceiling win was cut short by a small but dogged group of conservatives who have essentially taken the House floor hostage to their still undefined demands. McCarthy, though, dismissed any threat to his speakership and insisted today or earlier this morning, that the House GOP will work through its latest dispute and emerge stronger, and that it adds to the narrative that he has been underestimated. Nas, has he been underestimated?
No, he's actually a laughingstock. your children or grandchildren are going to kind of read about this period in history, and he's going to be the clown of the period. Basically, when we saw him try multiple times to get that speakership seat, and we saw those people just openly just squeeze him for everything that they could, at that moment, he was a weak speaker. So that continues to this day, to where he can't, you know what I mean, get all the cats to agree, or what would you call it? It's like herding cats. Like he can't herd all the cats in the room and get them to agree. They're always going to keep pushing and pulling for more things from him. And he walks to the table to negotiate. And the other side, which has dealt with this before in 2010 during the Obama administration, the Democrats have a lot of, logistics on how to work through this when Republicans come with this ruse about the debt ceiling. So he's stepping in with his cards. Biden and company know what his cards are. So when he lays them on the table, he just gets rolled. So, yeah, he's looking real bad. It's going to look bad generationally. And if I say something about the debt ceiling again, would you guys please stop saying pay off the debt? These are people's assets. They don't want to pay off the debt. You want those people's assets to have a return on them so they can make money off them. That's why they invested in the asset. If you devalue the asset, then people won't buy treasury bills and government bills anymore, because they'll say, hey, the government will pull the rug out from under you and won't let you make the return you're supposed to make. And again, go to the Civil War. How do we fund the Civil War? Did we tax people? No. We got loans from France and other countries. We got loans from friendly countries. How do we pay back? We're still paying back to the day. But it's such a small percentage of the money that we're paying that it doesn't mean anything, because our economy is so much bigger than what it was, during the Civil War. And that's how these things work. Public money, that's money from the government. Private money, that's the money, that's commerce that private companies and corporations spend within your country. If either one of those slow down, the other has to make up for that slack. And that's how your economy grows. So all this talk about not spending, if you were serious about it, you could go to the DOD, where they can't even do a clean audit on how much money is missing and how much money is allocated. And that's where the majority of our money goes. So if you actually cared about the debt, that's where you would go if that was a real concern, or cared about spending, that's where you would go. But people don't, because this is all at a certain point political theater.
Okay,
well,
thank you.
One thing I have to agree with him on some of that. I don't think the debt ceiling will be paid off either, but at least especially not in our lifetime. But
if we paid it off, we would go into a recession.
I never said
that depression. It would destroy the economy.
I never said that the debt. But look, one thing that's going to happen for sure is the money.
Well, wait, Keith, stop. Did you just hear what he said?
Yeah.
He said, if we pay, I'll say that again, Nas.
I heard him.
If we paid off all the debt today, we would destroy our economy and send ourselves into a recession and possibly a depression.
So why would we do that? So Keith, why are you saying do that?
Let me respond to that. I would just say that it's going to happen anyway, because the dollar is decreasing as we speak. The dollar is decreasing. They're going to remove the dollar, and eventually they will be paying. My wife.
Who is they?
They mean the government.
Who is they?
The government, the one world government that's forming, will remove the dollar.
The one world government that is forming
is becoming weaker and weaker the more we spend it. The more we spend, the dollar goes value.
The dollar is the world
Let
currency.
me finish my statement. Let me finish my statement before you respond. Blah, 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 blah. Let me finish.
All right, Keith, you got to sum it up. You can't go on and on and on as he talks.
Well,
you got to sum it up.
You're sounding real.
They go on and on and on, so why can't I? But anyway,
because they come to an end, and I make them come to an end.
Ever since we left the goal.
Go ahead and finish your lie.
Far beyond our means, so we spend far beyond our means, print up the money, and the Federal Reserve, they print the money. We after we print it, the dollar is devalued, and you guys should know.
Says who?
That's why we spend more. We're paying more for what we spend, like 50 cents.
So if the dollar is devalued, what is valuable?
So $1,000.
What is replacing it?
$100 bill is not. Well, it's
what
going
is
to be
replacing the U.S. dollar.
It'll be digital money.
So Bitcoin is replacing
Okay,
the
thank
digital.
you, thank you,
I-
thank you, Keith. I gotta move on.
Hold on, Stacey.
Digital money. It'll be IA and digital.
You must think you're talking to a child over here.
Wait a minute, Gunnar. Go ahead, Nas.
Oh, I must have hit a soft spot.
Yeah, we're laughing.
Wait. Go ahead, Nas. Say that again. Please repeat yourself.
Changing the form of a currency doesn't change the currency. If I owe a Guna $1 and I give him 10 dimes, he got $8. So saying
No, he didn't.
digital currency,
But the dollar with no value.
There's nothing different. And
Okay.
again, if I go to Brazil tomorrow,
The difference is the value.
Local currency in one pocket and a U.S. dollar in one pocket. The merchants there are going to want that U.S. dollar. It's the most widely
it's the world
sought after currency. Aguna.
So here's the thing. This is what's funny and ironic with what Keith is saying. He's saying that the dollar value is going down, but he wants to do the one thing that's going to make it go down by not increasing the debt ceiling. So I mean, you can't have it both ways. You're saying, okay, the dollar is devalued, but you want to do things to devalue the dollar. What are you talking about?
So you're admitting that the dollar is devalued. Okay.
No, if you don't increase the debt ceiling, it will be. That's what I'm saying. Do you speak English?
No, it's gone.
I mean, no, obviously, because you're saying the dollar's devalued, and you don't want to increase the debt ceiling. So by not increasing the debt ceiling, you're going to default and devalue the dollar. Does that not make? Do you not understand that?
No, that's not even. That doesn't even make common sense.
Let me move on.
Clearly,
spending, I'll have more money.
Okay, Cousin Todd, there were some shootings in Richmond, Virginia. Do you want to talk about the school shooting?
There was a shooting at a graduation, which was tragic. And these shootings, and I said this before, we talk about this weekly, the different mass shootings that are happening in America. And more guns is not the solution. Sorry, Keith and Stephen, that's not the solution. That's the problem. Not only that shooting, I wanted to also mention the shooting that happened in, I can't remember right now, but Florida, where a woman shot through a door and killed another woman. Now, this is the second time somebody shot through a door and somebody was killed. What is happening?
Somebody was shot, not necessarily killed.
I thought the woman died.
But the young man did not.
Yeah. Right. But this shooting through doors, when did we start doing that? Because they're afraid. The door's locked and closed. Nobody's breaking in. They're knocking on the door. So there are things you can do, like don't open it, call the police, all sorts of things you can do. But to shoot through a door, and which the woman was not arrested that night. She was white, of course. That's why she wasn't arrested that night. Had she been anything but white, she would have been arrested. But these people are shooting through doors. It is unbelievable. I'm getting an echo.
Sorry, no, I'm sorry. Something is playing that I need to stop playing because I wanted to show what you were talking about.
Okay.
Let me share my screen. So that's what you heard. Sorry about that. So a Florida woman, according to foxnews.com, can you see that shared screen? I'm going to try and make it a bit bigger.
That's okay. Just read it because it's almost impossible to see.
A Florida woman has been arrested for allegedly shooting and killing a 35-year-old black mother of four through a front door as the victim's 10-year-old son stood beside her in what authorities say was the culmination of a years-long feud between the neighbors. And what's so sad about this is this woman who was killed, her mother said that the woman's son felt like it was his fault his mother died because he went and told his mother that the woman had thrown skates at them and had taken the iPad and not returned it, and he felt his mother's death was his fault. His other son said it was his mother's death was his fault because he couldn't save her by doing CPR. That's a horrible thing to have someone's children witness their own mother die right in front of them. Susan Louise Lorenz, 58, was arrested Tuesday on charges of manslaughter with a firearm, culpable negligence, battery, and 2 counts of assault for the death of Ajaki A.J. Owens in Ocala, Marion County, Sheriff Billy Woods said. Lorenz had claimed the shooting was in self-defense under Florida's Stand Your Ground law. But Billy Woods, the Marion County Sheriff, said that an investigation revealed that the law did not apply in this case. He said this situation is a prime example of when it was not justified. It was simply a killing. Keith, let's hear your comment on that.
Well, I don't possibly have the whole story. When he says the law did not apply in this case, what did he mean by that?
The Stand Your Ground law does not apply in that case.
I understand it. I know what stand your ground means, but what was the woman? I mean, did the woman have a weapon, and was she an imminent threat to the?
Well, this is what we just went over.
Stacey, when she read the story, like, what were you doing? Were you making a sandwich?
No, I said, was the woman? Okay, you tell me. Was the woman an imminent threat or not?
We just said she was behind a closed door.
With her 9 or 10-year-old child to get her iPad back from those people who had taken it from across the little playing field the kids were playing in. And these neighbors had arguments before. They weren't on good terms. And when she knocked on the door, the woman shot her from inside the house, killing her in front of the child.
So this is a picture of the woman, Louise Lorenz. So the thing is, it's almost, Keith, like when Todd comes after you or Steven, do you pull out a gun and try to shoot him through the screen?
No, that's not it. That's not good.
Todd says some horrible things like, you hate your mother.
Yeah.
He says horrible things like, you want to get married to men.
Yeah, I know.
What?
Todd says really horrible things.
Terrible.
I do not say that. What do you? Don't keep me out of it.
You tell me I got to marry.
You say those things.
Say that they were lovers.
You have said those things over the years.
All right, look. Let me just
respond. You said Keith and Stephen were lovers.
Let me respond.
Yes, you have said that. Say it again, Aguna. Wait, say it again,
Aguna.
Aguna.
Keith and Stephen were lovers.
I did not.
Tell by, he clearly misses Stephen on the show as we speak. So
yeah, I do.
I think they do have love for one another, but not.
Yeah.
So Todd, you have said these things that could have angered Keith, and it definitely angered Keith's wife when you said that Keith hates his mother.
I did not. Oh, maybe that one. But the truth.
Yeah. Maybe that one. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe one of them did. But the point is,
let me
because
respond.
your words, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words.
Right. Let me respond the way I want to respond. I'll just say that I'm not going to repeat some of the things my wife thinks of some of the people on the show. Because I'm
because nobody's interested.
Look, I'm a master. I'm a master at being able to deal with all you progressives. So I know how to deal with you because I live in California. I'm in Los Angeles, California.
Okay,
the most
Keith,
progressive.
I'm sorry, I have to stop you there. That's not
addressing
Keith. That's not addressing what I want to address.
All right. You guys brought it all up.
He's bringing out the trauma. He's addressing his trauma.
What I want you to go into is how words and things people say do not cause them or cause you to take out a gun and shoot through an object because they said something.
Right. And I just said it. I said, because I wasn't sure, even though I heard you say it, they said that this law, the law, stand your ground law does not apply in this case. Well, I assume they're talking about the fact that she was in her house. The lady just knocked on the door. She starts shooting. That was wrong. Okay. So yes, that is
Yay. You finally
that's,
got there.
and see, I got there
After
because
all that,
I don't know
see
the
how
whole
easy that was, Keith, to be
Look,
just a
I can't
human
just
being.
trust you guys. I'll be honest
Not
with you.
being a human being.
I don't trust you. I don't trust you anymore, and you trust me to just give you the story without reading it myself. And I didn't
that's
see.
why. Okay, Keith, you got to stop right there because I got to move on.
You got to remember, Tucker's not on air anymore. He doesn't know what to think because Tucker's not there to tell him.
No.
So I'm sorry, Keith, you've got to stop because I've got to move on. But the point is, this is the woman on screen right here. Her name is Louise Lawrence. They said they are evaluating her, and I assume they're evaluating her for mental health issues. But this is the beautiful woman, Miss Owens. You see, she's gorgeous.
Yeah.
You see a picture of her? Just gorgeous. Mm-hmm. And she has 4 young children, and she lost her life because Lorenz became angry and was arguing. She was overheard arguing with children. Now, why would you argue with children instead of getting the parent?
Well,
and if it doesn't work with the parent,
I don't know about that. Some children are bad, and you may argue with them, but one thing has nothing to do with the other.
You get the parent. You go and get the parent.
Yeah, after you tell their little behinds off, then you get the parent.
No. This is where we part ways. I can't deal with this. Is his children? They're her children. They're his children. Let me get the parent and talk with the parent. If that doesn't work, then I call the police if they're on my property. But there's no saying that the children weren't on her property.
Right.
So go in the house and mind your business.
And then to take the iPad from the
yeah, that was
extreme.
Yeah.
Your house as if you don't know it's theirs. Like,
right.
Come on, man.
That's right. And the thing
this is what I mean. To say this is stand your ground law because she was inside her house with the door locked. She could have gone in a room in her house, in the basement, call the police and let them handle it. That's all she should have done. But to shoot and kill the woman in front of her children.
iPad back instead of stealing it.
Yeah, just give the kids.
For her to do that and for her to shoot
adult.
that woman in front of her children was the most outrageous thing I've ever heard.
No different from the man shooting the little boy, knocking at his door. This is what is happening now because of fear. They fear these Black people, and so they're just going to shoot them.
Fear and hatred is a dangerous mix. Always has been, especially in this country, when it comes to violence. So, yeah, I'm not surprised.
You know, I hate to say the usual. Our thoughts and prayers go out to Miss Owens' family, but they do, and to her children who feel that it's their fault. It's not their fault that somebody shot their mother.
And Stacey, I want to know like what happens after this because, you know, most of us know Black folks have a long tradition of what we used to call taking them in. Who's going to be the one? There's going to be an uncle, an aunt, a grandmother. There's somebody who takes on, you know, the custody of these children and has to raise them and also deal with the trauma that those kids experience. Like it's going to be really hard to get, you know, a healthy childhood for these kids after dealing with something like that they're going to be reading about and reenacting in their mind and everything else forever. And how does a child logically work through that?
Forever.
It was a senseless death. It was, and she was only 35 years old. I mean, in legal terms, you put a price tag on life. So you think about the years you have left, the moments with your kids, all of that type of stuff that's been taken away because of a selfish and just a cowardly act. I mean, this is one of those things where we as people need to be a little bit more logical and less emotional. Even if to say that this woman were to shoot through a door, she was secured in her house and to shoot through the door at a mother. Another. I mean, it's like, you know, the lack of humanity in this case is ridiculous. And I think there is an emboldenedness of gun violence going on, especially domestically, where, you know, we can't even have disputes anymore without people going to weapons and going to, you know, and using lethal force, not even force. It's different of a hand to hand, whatever, but it's lethal force in these situations where you don't come back from death. So it's really a shame.
It's horrible. So I'm going to move on. I don't know if you know, I'm sharing my screen. We're running out of time. Supreme Court justices file their financial disclosures. This article is from CNN.com. Supreme Court Justices Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, and Neil Gorsuch were flown to Italy. Can you see that? Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson received a $1,200 congratulatory floral arrangement from Oprah Winfrey. Justice Sonia Sotomayor received nearly $150,000 in book royalties from her publisher. These, they say, are a few things detailed in the annual financial disclosure forms released today by 7 members of the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I was going to say flowers.
About extravagant trip from billionaires who want policy enacted and want votes to go a certain way. The other thing was a publishing deal that you're legally entitled to.
Yeah, that I wrote a book.
Whatever. And then the other one, a flower arrangement.
Some flowers.
Mm-hmm. That's nowhere near Clarence Thomas and
no. And
I guess is the best way to say it. So it's interesting. Shout out to the handmaiden up there as well, Amy Coney Barrett.
How much did you say?
For those who never looked into her, look up.
Why do you call her the handmaiden?
I'm sorry.
What'd you say?
So wait, let me read this. It says, though most of the justices released their 2022 forms today, conservative justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito were given extensions to release theirs, according to the Administrative Office of the United States Courts.
What'd you say the price of that floral arrangement was?
$1,200.
I'll go back on the screen. It shows you
$1,200. Don't waste your time with that.
That was a lot of flowers. There it is, right there.
I've never seen anything like that.
You never seen anything like that? What if I told you Harmon paid for Clarence Thomas's childhood home and allowed his mother to live there rent-free until the day that she dies, and he also sponsored worldwide trips on his super yacht, and also made sure Clarence got a certain amount of cash that he never disclosed until this year? What would you say?
Also paid for his boy to go to school.
Sounds like he likes black people. Sounds like he likes.
All right, so let me share.
Maybe he's
while we were talking. We got comments. Somebody said premeditated charge. You gotta love YouTube said since she must have already had the gun when she opened the door, and
she never opened the door.
How threatened could she have felt from behind the door?
Right.
And the victim's mother said she went up to the door empty-handed, just by herself alone with her children. That's not a weapon.
Okay,
by herself with her children is not a weapon.
We already established that it was definitely a murder case. Okay.
Yeah, but
so let's move on.
This goes to show you, though, everybody needs to be careful. It's like even simple things like having a conversation with your neighbor can end up deadly in this society. So
exactly. Road rage is on the rise. Like, people are pulling guns on people in traffic. And there's been some cases lately of people actually shooting at somebody in traffic. Like, the anger and pressure that people are feeling, not only from inflation and everything else, dealing with the pandemic 2 years ago and all the fallout from that, people are really like on the edge, and it's manifesting in the most American way. What did that man say? Violence is American as apple pie. Hey.
Well, all right, so let's move on. We're almost out of time.
There's a way to deal with it. There is a way to deal with it.
Tonight in Iowa, there will be 2. Let me share the screen. There will be 2 added people to the U.S. presidential race. GOP field widens as Mike Pence and Chris Christie join the race to run for president of the United States. He's going to, former Vice President Mike Pence is set to field questions from Iowa voters in a CNN town hall this evening. And then I want to talk about the horrible, horrible wildfires. There are wildfires going on in Nova Scotia in which the smoke is just going down into eastern United States. I've seen it here in the Philadelphia area to the point that some Broadway has been postponed. Some sporting events have been postponed. It's horrible what's happening with these wildfires. I can't even say it correctly. Flights have been delayed in different cities as the smoke literally chokes some Americans. All right, so let's go to we're out of time. Let's go to our roundtable discussion. And what we're going to talk about tonight.
Before we go to roundtable, I just wanted to ask one question about why does this billionaire keep giving Clarence Thomas money? What does Keith think?
Probably for the same reason that George Soros gives people money, the certain people.
Ooh.
And nobody wants to report it. You don't want to talk about it, but that's.
What do you mean report it? It's called a foundation. You apply for a grant. Sometimes you get it. Sometimes you don't. It's
Okay.
like open. Like you can
So
look
what's
up
the problem?
money from Soros, and we didn't.
So what's your problem?
No,
You didn't answer the
wasn't a
question,
problem.
though, Keith.
He asked
You
you a
didn't answer the
legitimate
question.
You threw out a BS non-answer, and I answered your non-answer. Now, will you answer his original question?
Well, his original question was, why does George Soros? I'm sorry, not George Soros. Why does why is Clarence Thomas getting all this money from whoever it is giving him? You didn't mention who was giving his money, giving him all.
So you just needed the name, and then you would have given us an answer, right?
Well, I mean, I'm just wondering. You're
You
saying
should shut your mic off. For the
you're
rest of the
saying that he's getting all this money.
Jeez, man, this is why healthcare. This is why we need healthcare. This is why you need Obamacare.
What is your? So what is Todd? You
Yes.
said you.
All right, we're not going to ask Todd. We're out of time. I got to do the roundtable. I'm sorry. We're going to
You
move
need
on.
Steven. You need Steven.
Well,
You need
was
Okay,
saying-
so we have
Steven would be yelling right
comments.
now, and we
We
couldn't hear
we have
you.
comments from viewers who are saying Keith sounds disappointed, LOL, and true. So we're going to do our roundtable. It is LGBTQ month.
Wait.
for the
Oh
month of
yeah, this
June.
is Keith. This is Keith's favorite month.
Keith, you
This
can
is
throw
Keith's
yours
favorite
in
month.
when
Yeah,
you do your roundtable. We're going to start with Keith, then Nas, then Aguna, then Cousin Todd. You can say whatever it is you want to say about celebrating LGBTQ month.
Hold on, let me get my popcorn. Let me get the popcorn ready for
Keith.
this one. Come on, Keith. Let's hear it. Pride Month. What you got?
LGBTQ. Before I do that, I want to just say to the person who said I sound disappointed, they're absolutely right. I'm disappointed because we have a Republican on this show who doesn't seem to do anything but attack Republicans. Kind of reminds.
It's called holding them accountable.
And
wrong with that.
yes.
You hold.
Never heard him. Hello, it's my turn.
Oh, go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, I am disappointed in the Republicans who attack Republicans constantly and say nothing bad about Democrats. I mean, I find that very, I don't know what I find it. It's kind of weird.
So
Anyway, they remind me of the ladies on The View. The ladies on The View do nothing but attack Republicans, like Mike Pence and Chris Christie and all these people.
Oh, man.
And Donald.
Okay, so excuse me.
that's what
We're running out of time. You guys, you only
We're
have
going to talk about Pride Month. You're not getting off of the hook here, Keith.
you only
Talk
have
about
10
Pride Month.
seconds. So wait a minute, Keith.
Yeah.
If you look at the comment on the screen, it says the viewer explain what they meant. It says disappointed that the white woman sounds guilty.
Oh yeah, well, no. What do you mean? I want somebody to go to prison for the rest of their lives and for making a mistake. They let all kinds of criminals out because of the out of jail. They have no bail systems here in Los Angeles and New York. So, what are you upset about?
I think
you have a voter
it's good to rejoice because a person takes a life. So no, I don't think that to the person who wrote that, I don't think it's good to take a human life unless you have to in self-defense. That was not a legitimate self-defense.
Okay,
so
thank you. Stop it there. Now go on with your LGBTQ, Keith.
Well,
and you got 5 seconds.
And I understand some people are, they're going to attack me for this, just like everything else, because they don't have any wisdom or understanding. But here it is in the LGBT, they are attacking our kids. And we need to stand fast because the Lord will deal with those who are attacking kids. And they are going to receive quite an astonishing punishment when the day comes. So
how are they attacking kids?
Well, Keith is talking about this article, which I'm showing. It says Los Angeles United School District unanimously passes resolution to encourage LGBTQ education for all schools. And this was written 18 hours ago today. Is that what you're referring to, Keith?
That is exactly what I'm referring to, and they will pay a price for it.
It says the Los Angeles Unified School District Board of Education unanimously approved a resolution yesterday encouraging all district schools to incorporate lessons on the LGBTQ plus community into their curriculum. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Keith.
Yeah. And I just wanted to say, I don't know in history. I don't know where they're going to get. They just have to change the history. They're changing the history. They're going after kids. And you guys should be appalled at that. Aguna,
thank you.
Be appalled
Nas.
at that.
Yeah, so the last story that you brought up talked about the bad air that people are dealing with on the East Coast. The Yankees and the Phillies had to postpone games tonight just because the air quality was so bad. There's a lot of New Yorkers on social media talking about they were wearing masks when they were outside, and basically they were doing that just to walk their pets and then go back inside because the air quality is so bad. This kind of leads you to the discussion of climate change and how this is not only real, but areas that you're not even involved in as far as, being a citizen can actually affect you because climate change has a global effect and that domino effect will hurt you. So an area that has been the temperature raised in one area where they have a mild winter and that leads to more kindling and more harsh fires, you get an outcome like this. But this is not a country that you can affect policy on because it's another country. It's Canada. But because of global warming and climate change, and I know people don't say global warming anymore, but climate change in general, these are going to be the effects of things that happen to us. We're going to see this. We saw the algae and all that other stuff on the shores in Florida down there. They got this huge influx of this algae that's all over the beach, and it can make people sick and everything else. They got to figure out a way to deal with that. But DeSantis is, he's not governing. He's on TV talking about woke.
That is the real.
And as far as LGBTQ, shout out to the great James Baldwin. His most famous book, The Fire Next Time, I think is really appropriate for people to read right now. I would definitely check that out. Go to YouTube, watch some of his lectures, watch his debate with William Buckley. Just, lean into the brilliance of the great James Baldwin.
Thank you. Aguna.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't want to be perfectly honest with this LGBTQ curriculum in schools. I'm not okay with that as a parent. I think we should have an option. Again, I don't think that the school should offer. I mean, at certain ages. I'm looking at certain ages, elementary school, depending on the nuances of what is California law. But I do think the parents should have an option to opt in or out when it comes to those conversations. Because the reality of it is this: society has these. Our kids are learning from YouTube. They're learning from all different social media networks. So there needs to be something in the school to help kind of educate, but at the same time, the parent should also have a say in that, right? So that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying, hey, we should ban books, burn books, and all this other stuff. The parents should be deeply involved with what's being taught. And again, this is not the same as some of this CRT and all this other stuff. I would feel the same way if it came to sex ed education for elementary school. That it's still something that as a parent, I would want some say in it. So that being said, if the LGBTQ community wants to have a month where they recognize or they have a Pride Month, hey, look, go ahead, do your thing. I'm not against people expressing themselves, but yeah, when it comes to things that impact me and my personal family, I do think I should have a say in those type of things.
Laguna, there's hope for you. I really like that. Thank you, Laguna.
Cut it out, Keith.
No, Laguna gave a real reason answer. The problem becomes that Constitution you love so much, Keith. How do you actually stop them from doing this?
Right. I don't think the government should come in here and say, well, anyway.
All right. Thank you, Cousin Todd.
Okay. Two things. I want to first say this thing that Keith always says, that Stephen's boyfriend, Stephen and Keith say that, and it's amazing that white Republicans call Mexicans the invaders. And if you are white living in America, then you are the invader, not the Mexicans.
No, they're here legally.
So, that being said, America didn't look like this when they got here and killed the people who lived here out. The Mexicans aren't killing the people who live here out.
Kill them out.
They're
still alive.
So anyway,
But just to clarify, it's not necessarily Mexicans that are coming here. Mexicans come and go from the United States all the time. It's like Nicaraguans and things. And they're not, and to correct Keith, if migration is not illegal immigration, right? You can come here and request asylum. That is nothing illegal about that. So you're saying illegal immigration. You're using two different terms that aren't the same.
That's right.
I can come here and get myself.
We're out of time.
And the name calling, the name calling invaders, that's a name that Republicans made up to make you other than. So, okay, and then the LGBTQ, that's fine that Aguna wants to be involved in their children's education. I don't have a problem with that. I think that's smart. But have you been involved in their education other than now about this particular topic?
I am definitely.
Of course,
involved.
you have, but I'm not talking about you specifically.
Especially when they try to teach them that Pocahontas was an Indian queen that did all this other stuff. I'm absolutely involved in telling the true story. But yeah, I digress.
That's right.
Especially,
and now,
don't you try to stop the Disneyfication of Pocahontas.
and now let me also say, we're done.
We're out of time. You guys going on like we got all night.
Are we going on or are they?
15 minutes and asked us the question 5 times to start the.
Who are you referring to, Nas?
That would be Keith.
We have to respect our elders and their sometimes senility on the show. We got to make sure we can accommodate their disabilities.
Just remember that when you vote for president, okay? Remember when you vote for Biden. All right, Nas?
I'm just saying we're accommodating your disability, Keith.
Well, remember that when you vote for Biden, okay, Nas? And,
all right, Todd, we're out of time.
What?
Give me a candidate. Give me a
candidate. Your final thing of what you're going to say, and then
you got to vote for an 82-year-old guy because.
But why would I say that when you wouldn't be able to hear me?
Go ahead. You can hear you now.
Okay, goody. So the curriculum is just acceptance. That's what they're going to teach in school, that some children have 2 mothers and some people have 2 fathers. Some people have 1 mother. Some people have 1 father. That's what the curriculum is. So I don't want Aguna's strong message to lead people to believe they're teaching and Keith's crazy notion that they're killing the children and all that kind of nonsense. They're simply teaching this is what happens when people love each other. They raise families. That's all. And it could be 2 mothers.
So what about what about the drag queens reading the books?
All right, thank you. We're out of time.
What about that?
What about that? To our first responders in our communities, you make our lives livable. Thank you to the women and men of the U.S. military for all that you do and sacrificing your lives so that we are free to say whatever we choose to say on the show. We are forever indebted. On behalf of who? Aguna, the Nigerian modern Republican.
That's right, Republican Keith. You don't label me. I can be who I want to be and vote for who I want to vote for, and you can't tell me what to do.
The constitutional conservative.
Not fiscal though.
Stephen. Oh, is this Stephen? Oh no, that's not Stephen.
No, ma'am.
No, that's not. Hey, we needed Stephen. Keith needs
Stephen,
not-
the independent thinker. And thank you, Nas, for joining us. I'm Stacey Johnson. Keep this conversation going on Twitter. And guess what? Check us out on Instagram. I'm posting some of the great things that everyone has to say, the videos. So check us out on Instagram, and we'll see you next week. Good night.
God bless America.
Yeah, so quick question to the
Celebrate Pride Month.
With all of the precedents set from like civil rights movement and every other case where some group feels marginalized, how the hell are y'all gonna stop whatever? Like, I don't understand the argument that's gonna stop this. I understand the outrage of people being upset about this thing in California, but I don't understand legally how y'all win with the Constitution that Keith loves so much in place.
Because it's against nature, and nature's God.
Yes, Aguna. Hey, Aguna,
The Constitution is grounded in natural.
All right, good night. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, God. Thank you. Aguna.